It is with renewed confidence and pleasure that we welcome you today on yet another edition of Press Hour. Today's edition, we're going to go back to what caused Cameroon to be where the country is now, 2016-2020, government's response to crisis in the Northwest and Southwest regions. We are also going to look at COVID-19. There are controversies surrounding the disease this time, and one of them is the fact that has been decried by public authorities that some Cameroonians and even non-Cameroonians are importing uncertified results, faked results we should call them by the name, into Cameroon and some other countries from Europe and elsewhere. We're going to look at these two topics, discuss them, and on Press Hour, without suppressing our emotions, we let our good sense lead our ideas and discussions. To discuss today on the panel, we have Mr. Fru Jonathan. He is chargé de mission, Central Committee of the CPD. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much, Kilian. It's my pleasure to be with you this day.
It's our honor, sir. We have Mr. Nkemlemo Dennis. Mr. Nkemlemo Dennis is the National Communication Secretary of the Social Democratic Front, SDF Party. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, Kilian. Welcome, my brother Jonathan, and I want to greet the televiewers. Hope that we'll be able to enlighten them on some of the issues that you raised in the introduction of this point.
Of course, and that's why we brought you here. We have Victor Cham. Victor Cham is a journalist. He is the publisher of Municipal Updates. Welcome to the program, Victor.
Thank you very much, Kilian. Glad to be here with Jonathan and Dennis. It's a pleasure.
The pleasure is shared, and we're still waiting for one of our panelists, Albert Njembonde, who should be on the way. Immediately he comes, we're going to introduce him. Albert Njembonde is the head of the political service, CRTV, and national station. And first thing first, we have our regular slot on Press Hour that launches the program. The week in review in Press Review, done for us by Emmanuel.
Newspapers in Cameroon this week have been drawing readers to kiosks with news reports cutting across the board. Cameroon Tribune describes the kidnappings in the northwest and southwest regions as unacceptable. In the eye of the Chronicle Times, it is baseless terrorism. Le Gideon questions garusing its own blood, 2 weeks of high-profile murders, abductions that shook the nation. A crisis that has attained real and disturbing dimensions on the Star, especially as the kidnapped are subjected to physical, mental torture on the Guardian Post. Then tempers flare as Anglophone remains in captivity on the Post newspaper. The Horizon quotes kidnapped Anglophone to his captors, "I am for one Cameroon." The median laments on once upon a great clan as it questions can pick the pieces after Fon's humiliation. At a time, Secret Society warns freed Fon to quit politics on the Guardian Post. Cardinal Tomi is hospitalized after kidnap on Newswatch just when suspected Amber fighters equally kidnap pregnant woman IDPs in Limbe on the Guardian Post. Before Betty Asomo marshals troops for major onslaught in Boya and Kumba on the Median. As military blunder leaves breastfeeding mother, one other dead in a Tanganjis village on the Guardian Post, traditional healers declare 21 days of special prayers on the horizon to heal Cameroon of bloodshed, even as Canadian group pressures international community to sanction BR regime over the armed conflict in the northwest and southwest on the Guardian Post. The November session of Parliament then opens on Cameroon Tribune with parliamentarians demanding justice for victims of the Kumba massacre. To the Guardian Post, Kavai makes derogatory remarks on Kamto's quest to take over power at opening session of Parliament. Alleged bribe-taking lawyers fight in court in Douala on the Eden as black voters carry Biden to finish line on the Sun. Biden's victory sweeps Trump out of White House on the Post. before Republican lawmakers backed Trump's lawsuit against rigging on the Guardian Post. The same paper announces the death of former Ghanaian President Jerry Rawlings. Let's now end our press review with a story on the Guardian Post, wherein the population of Angona in Bafia, Central Region of Cameroon, are yet to recover from shock after 2 men died from consuming a locally brewed whiskey called Odonto or Afofo. The 3 men had reportedly engaged in a competition to know who the best drinker of the Afofo was. A day passed and things went worse for the 2 who died, and a third was only saved thanks to the intervention of the population. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
We look forward to having you next Sunday, Manuela. Between now and then, we're going to monitor what the newspapers will be talking about for the next edition of the program. A reminder of the topics, and the first topic we're going to treat is 2016-2020, government's response to crisis in the Northwest and Southwest regions. We know it started as a corporate strike. Teachers' demands, lawyers' demands, and today we do not understand. We want to go back and see what were the demands of the teachers and lawyers then, that today, how many of them have been met and why. Even with what we're going to see, we are still where we are. I will introduce Albert Njembonde, who just came in, as we promised. He's always there. Albert, welcome to the program.
Happy Sunday to you.
Thank you. How did this start? We're going to go back to how it started. We'll look at what has the government response, and then we see why we are where we are today, beginning with what brought up what we call today the crisis, and what people rightly describe as a war already.
Thank you very much, Killian. It's my pleasure to be with you in this program and also to talk on this subject. I'm equally happy with the panel because if we have to talk about this problem, which is not called the Anglophone problem, it's always good to talk with people who are field men, people who have been on the field and who are actors in this crisis. I'm talking about the case of Dennis, who is here, and even the Joe
Njembonde,
Albert, and so on.
Constantly on the field.
I personally have been on the field since the beginning of this crisis in 2016. And I've had the opportunity with some other elites of the Northwest to meet those who were involved in this crisis. I mean the teachers and the lawyers. I think we did in 2016 2 trips on the field.
Now let us begin with how it started.
Yes, that's why I'm saying that we went on the field to meet the lawyers. It's when we met them that they had to explain to us what their problems were. I was trying to say the 2 cases with Madame Regina Mundi, Honorable Engwe, and Honorable Njungubosa, and the second trip with your colleague Joe Chebonka Kalabasa. When we went on the field, we met with the teachers and had the opportunity to discuss with them. We met with Tassang and his group. We met with Harmony, Lawyer Harmony. They expressed problems, particularly the teachers, their problems which are like summarized to say there was a conspiracy to degrade and wipe off the Anglophone subsystem of education. And their problems targeted various aspects of this system. We're talking of technical education, where they believe that the admission into technical schools was biased, only mostly Francophones admitted. They felt that the teachers in the technical schools were mostly Francophones. The teachers who
technical professional
schools. They felt that in the universities, the appointments of lecturers and even the officials were biased. Francophones appointed to in the Anglophone universities and who cannot speak English well. And they even talked about the harmonization of the educational system in the country. They felt that the Ministry of Higher Education was a bit biased because they were working more with the French subsystem. In fact, their problems were clearly outlined. On the part of the lawyers, we understand that they put forward the problem of the OHADA laws, which were not translated. They talked of the absence of the common law in our country, in our system, at the level of the Supreme Court, at the level of the universities. They felt that Francophone magistrates were sent to Anglophone courts and they could not present their judgments in English. They felt that the recruitment of the legal personnel favors the Francophones and not the Anglophones. So the problems were put up in very clear terms, okay. And they felt that the government should address these problems.
Well, we agree that these were the problems that were put forward by the corporate bodies, the teachers and the lawyers. That was the beginning. Do you have some other problems? Because we were told that they came up with 7. In the course of solving the problem, they came up to 11. And in the third phase of solving the problem, they were multiplied to over 20. Do we still have some that you remember, Dennis?
I think my brother Jonathan has very clearly outlined the causes of the crisis that started in 2016, the immediate causes. I would like to describe Cameroon, the metaphor as an AIDS patient or as a diabetic patient whose illness starts manifesting through certain symptoms. And what my brother Jonathan has described very ably, of course, are the symptoms of an ailment. That is to say, to be clearer, that is to say that it will be very limiting and misreading to limit our efforts to solve this crisis that started in 2016 by behaving as if this crisis started in 2016. Because what he has detailed out are those symptoms that emerge, but the base illness is not what the teachers were asking for. It's not what the lawyers were asking for.
Yeah, are you just saying that they were not sincere when they came?
No, that is to say that what they were experiencing was real, but it was a manifestation of symptoms of a greater illness, a greater ailment. That's what we are saying. And so,
which is
trying to cure the symptom. The government has done a lot. There's no doubt about that. At the level of
we're going
treating those symptoms. But as I said, if you are a diabetic patient and you have a small wound on your leg, and you concentrate only on treating the wound without going to the source of the diabetes, the wound will sore out. If you have an AIDS patient and you have manifestations of different illnesses that come, and then you don't concentrate on the HIV or the illness, but you concentrate on the symptoms, it will not have any problem.
Yes,
that is to say that the fundamental problem, which the 2016 demonstration strike by the teachers and lawyers, which is only one out of several that have happened after independence, is the fact that the breach is the breach of confidence that Anglophone Cameroon, Southern Cameroon, which was semi-autonomous, almost enjoying independence. I said almost. Under the conviction, under the advice of Aidjo, the political campaign of Aidjo, who said, "Come, we are brothers, we will treat you as brothers of equal status."
Okay.
And in Fumban, they agreed on certain things.
Yes, we're going to move
into... those things have been eroded.
Yeah, we're going to...
It will be very limiting for us to limit to teachers and lawyers in 2016.
It's like saying that you are telling the world that these teachers had something else and came out, let me finish, came out and they were asking for something else. Now, if you are a patient, AIDS patient or diabetic, to use your metaphor, and you go to the hospital and tell the doctor that give me treatment for diabetes, for AIDS, you are the one, you are telling the doctor. The doctor gives you the treatment. Will you turn around and blame the doctor? That question...
No. Before you react, sir, He has made a very important, elaborated metaphor. A patient who is an AIDS patient or a diabetic patient goes to the hospital. The first thing he complains to the doctor are the symptoms he has. It is the responsibility of the doctor to go beyond those symptoms to verify whether those symptoms are the real illness or there's something deeper.
Okay, briefly respond to that.
I think I would not like Dennis to digress out of the subject.
Okay.
In fact, you were very clear from the word go. Anglophones and, I mean the lawyers and the teachers did put up some problems to government. The question is, what were the problems? Were these problems solved?
Now,
why is the crisis?
I do not want to stop him abruptly. It's part of the answer to the question we're asking that was supposed to come later. Yes. He brought it. I wanted him to go to the end of his thought.
I just answered my brother's question that why was his problem not solved?
Now,
despite all those measures.
No,
because they were addressing the symptoms and not the root illness.
Now,
I will tell you that the problems have been solved. The Anglophone, the teachers' problems, the magistrates' problems.
Let us look at it. Now, that's the question. We're going to get to that.
I'll tell you.
We're going to get to that. Yes. We have structured our discussion. Okay. Let us. You elaborated the causes.
Yes.
And Mr. Nkamle accepted that actually those are the causes that were presented. Now we want to look at the solutions that were given to these problems that started. Aben Jemboden, let us list some of them. We're going to go together.
Well, perhaps to say that talking about the problems that the lawyers and the teachers did present, I think it's also important to talk about the environment under which all of that was done. To say that we were coming, this was coming at the time when social media had become an everyday mentality of Cameroonians in general. I think there was a lot of external factors and external personalities who came to the fore, which made it such that at a given point, we really didn't know whether we were still talking about the corporate grievances that were presented by teachers and lawyers. You know, I think there was also a problem of egos among those who were at the front line of this. I think when I look at the what has become the Anglophone crisis, I tell myself that there have been a lot of missed opportunities, a lot of, unfortunately, wrong communication was done at the start in the part of the government. I take, for instance, the famous press conference held in Yaoundé at the time when the PM, young Philemon at the time, was into discussions with some of these actors in Bamenda, which gave the impression that part of the government was saying something and the head of government was saying something else. So there was also the problem of how to manage information conventionally as we knew it and what it was on social media, which raised unnecessary populism over the issue and which opened the floodgates for
misinterpretations and
lots of other things that had nothing to do with the grievances to come in. So at the end of the day, nobody knew whether the patient that was brought to hospital had more of psychological problems or had clinical problems. So I think that there were lots of those factors that derailed everybody completely from the grievances. And perhaps that's also why at the end of the day we've seen the evolution. Those who were like the forerunners lost control of the whole thing.
Yes.
Today we can't say that teachers and lawyers have control over what is happening.
Let us recapitulate. What are some of the solutions that this far have been given to some of the problems that were named here?
Well, just to say that I think that government, if we were to remain only in 2016 with the 2016 grievances, more than 95% of those grievances have been solved. Nobody can deny the fact. Perhaps we've gone too far, too soon. That is even embarrassing for critics of the government. If you take the country's justice system, introduction of the common law section, Supreme Court, ENAM. That is huge. We have at the level of state universities quite some modifications that have been made with respect to grievances that were presented. Lots of people complained about not having representation, especially with what we call sovereignty portfolios in government. That at least has been given some prominence. But yes. I think that with all of this, it's more of a factor of how proactive were we in this thing, so that it doesn't look like...
Let's continue with Victor. Let us look at some of the solutions that have been provided.
Thank you very much. When Abe was talking, I was boiling. I was boiling because at the onset of this crisis, what we call the Anglophone crisis, on this same platform, I said it very clearly that that was a manifestation of bad governance.
On the part of?
Government. I said on this program. And that is why in Bamenda, lawyers and teachers were resistant. But again, after all the meetings held, discussions and deliberations and brainstorming, government considered and accepted to implement the various problems tabled by the various corporate bodies. That was the beginning of good faith on the side of government. It became an exchange. Bad faith was taken over by the lawyers and teachers, and good faith by government.
Yes, that's...
Now, since then, thereafter, government launched the recruitment of 1,000 bilingual teachers. That was done, and well done. I know people who today are civil servants thanks to that program. Now, with the lawyers, government had to translate the OHADA Act into English, and that was done and effectively done. It was done and condemned and redone. A good step further. Now, teachers said it was wrong for government to post French-speaking teachers to English schools who were unable to teach or carry out lessons in the English language. Government heeded to that, and that was done. Now, where we are today, what caused it? The monster we fed, the baby we nurtured and we groomed, is what has brought us to where we are today. What do I mean? The additional grievance added to the existing, like you said, 7, 11, 18, and 21 grievances, talking about federation, which came from nowhere. That was a political demand. There is no country on earth which will understand that with a federation there can be good governance, and they reject it. But it is bad when you take an advantage to manipulate government, to think that government can succumb to whatever demand you table because the government is at the beginning end. Now, that was the beginning of misunderstanding, because political demands were mixed up with corporate demands, and that brought us to where we are today. And it became a problem of what did they want? Cameroonians became confused. What was actually the problem?
Yes.
And one of those...
We got you.
Let me learn. And one of those who told the government state media, Cameroon Tribune, an interview that the problems were genuine, that government should take advantage and implement all those problems and solve all those problems now, not tomorrow, because tomorrow something is fishy, and it became fishy.
Okay.
So now the problem is that it is our duty, our responsibility to stand up and inform and educate each and every Anglophone of this.
Yes, when I hear some of us talk, I understand why this problem rather than going down is escalating. Because we want to say anything, do anything apart from focusing on the real issue that is painful. It is true, as we have all agreed on this table, it starts with corporate demands from people. But when the government clearly mismanaged, first of all, by banning those who were serving themselves as interlocutors, I'm talking of the consortium, which was, and the population came out to protect those consortium members. Some ran into exile, some were arrested and transferred to Yaoundé. And then it brought out the long-standing remorse.
Victor is saying it did not only bring out at that time of what you call mismanagement, that that agenda had been hidden.
I am coming. I'm telling you that it is bad faith to say the agenda has been hidden. The cry of Anglophones in this country started not later than 5 years after reunification, when certain actions were taken that were in complete contrast to the agreement in Fumba. And that cry, even the forefathers that we now quote them as heroes, Foncha and others, they complained and went back to the UN to complain that what they agreed was not followed. So it is the population saw an opening in the demands of the teachers and the lawyers that we have to solve this problem once and for all, because it has been boiling for long. And they decided to solve this problem, that this problem has to be solved once and for all, when their interlocutors were arrested and taken to Yaoundé. And I don't see how federalism in a country becomes a taboo to the extent that a minister of communication at that time even say is banned on public discussion, and they had to incarcerate these interlocutors because they were talking of federalism. So I want to say that it is true we have a monster in the Northwest and Southwest now. And do you know what that monster is? That monster is the war that has been fanned by a few individuals, some in the government,
and the opposition,
some in the
opposition parties.
Please don't borrow me words, please. You can borrow me money. You can lend me money, not words, please. What I'm saying is that fanned by some of the activists, both have played the role. And you know why? We are no longer talking of the core problem that brought us to the crisis in 2016. We are now talking of managing the crisis, the war. And it is a very huge distraction, because the government knows that if they start talking about the justice done to Anglophones since reunification, the government will have no case. That's why they have confused the whole thing with a humanitarian crisis. So many people are dying. Everybody is talking about the crisis. We have forgotten the real issue. And that is why I talk of symptoms and not the real illness.
We should admit that this problem is evolving, is metamorphosing. From what it happened in 2016 is not the same thing today. But we should equally let the public and the viewers understand that when these problems were raised in 2016, the lawyers and teachers were very specific with their problems. And the reaction of government was very prompt, because the head of state dispatched the prime minister.
Very prompt in beating lawyers.
Excuse me, let me finish. The head of state dispatched the prime minister to Bamenda. I was present, and the prime minister sat with the teachers in the conference hall of Ayaba from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., listening and negotiating and trying to find solutions to these problems. And at the end of the meeting, a communique was signed where the prime minister had to put in place a follow-up committee to work with the teachers and the lawyers to find solutions. Because we must admit that these problems were not supposed to be solved by a decree. There are problems that had to do with a whole reform of the system, which means that some could be solved immediately, and they were solved, like recruitment of teachers, like the subsidies. The government gave 2 billion, subsequently 2.3 billion immediately.
Private education.
Yes. Creation of these institutions at level of Supreme Court, they were solved immediately. Others had to take some time. That's why this committee had to be put in place. But what I know, what I imagine, or I can understand is that from what he's saying, talking about consortium and so on, amongst the teachers and even the lawyers, there are those who were focused on the problems they posed. There were others who had other ideas. And that's why today, most of the teachers, even members of the consortium, have come back and they are working, while others are still either in jail or on the run. So you discover that while some teachers may have been working thinking that they're trying to reform a system in a country, others had ulterior motives. And that's why the problem now continued to degenerate, and the government's addressing it.
I bet Mr. Fru Jonathan said most of you are field actors. You go to the field, northwest, southwest, and even when it comes to other security problems in other parts of the country, you have far north, you have the east, you are there. What are possible solutions out of this?
Good faith.
On the part of?
Good faith on the part of all the actors. I think that one of the biggest problems of this crisis is coming from bad faith of some actors. I'll say that one of the biggest of them is denying the fact that government has made quite an effort, significantly. Not only to talk about the corporate demands, but political decisions which are a testimony of good faith. Contrary to what many may think, I think that there is no government that will not want to sleep in peace. I don't think that there is any genuine government official who will gladly say that he sleeps well when other Cameroonians are in the bushes. No. I think that good faith is needed from even us parents. Our brothers and sisters who are in the bushes need to be told. And I think that we have to be firm. It's something that demands courage and conviction. That's why I love the outing of, should I say the outing, of the Fon of Saw. Despite the threat,
he decided to go back.
In a typical display of conviction said, I believe in one Cameroon. And I think that having been to Kumba 3 times since the carnage, I said, we need to tell Cameroonians the truth. The truth about what is possible, what is not possible. What is not possible is the separation of Cameroon.
Yes.
What is possible is we continuing the aspects of dialogue to see how far, what is possible and what is not possible. I think that good faith and honesty is very, very important. And I think that some of the people who are being accused today of fanning this problem, sometimes it is because they were truthful to themselves by saying that the indivisibility of Cameroon is unquestionable.
Now, he has talked of good faith. Abed talks of good faith and honesty. What other thing do we put onto the table to make sure that this thing ends?
You understand that the problem, the Anglophone problem, as has been called, has sufficiently evolved. We've said it here. What we had in 2016 is a new game now. It's important to see, to look at this evolution and perhaps really carry out a diagnosis and identify where the problems are, who is involved, and then we can be able to find a way out. Because so many actors have come in. It was teachers and lawyers. Then a new problem came up about the nature of the state. A group came in with secession. That is a specific group. They want to create a new state. That is one problem. There's another group that comes in, call them terrorists. They come with the objective to destabilize the country, to kill, to destroy. That's another group.
So what should be done with this?
We must know the groups. Let me tell you.
The third group.
Yes, the third group are bandits. I will call them even highway robbers because the people who are living on this problem. That is, their job is to kidnap people and make money out of them. So they don't have a problem with secession. They don't have a problem with whatever. Their problem is to make money. There are others who are even settling scores, using this problem to settle their scores on the field. So it is a question of addressing each of these problems. Let us look at the secessionists. If they are asking for a new state, I think the ultimate, the end result, the one is autonomy. They want the power to drift further down to the ground, development down. But I think this has been addressed because today we are talking about decentralization. I think if the secessionists are honest that they want autonomy, they should give a chance to this possibility that the head of state has given, which is decentralizing, and in the weeks ahead, we bring out for elections. At least we shall vote our own regional authorities who shall manage the country at the base.
Okay.
The government delegates have been suspended and so on.
Thank you.
Concerning the terrorists, we need the population to collaborate with the military to identify them. Those who are terrorists are our children. They are up in the bushes, but they live in towns. They come back to eat in towns. Some of them have their wives and children. They come back home. So it is the population to be able to collaborate with the military to help identify these guys and correct them.
Yes, thank you very much. Abe talked of good faith and honesty. You have talked of more devolution of powers.
And let me add that
yes, briefly.
He mentioned dialogue. And the question has been asked in many media, some to ask dialogue too. We must be careful with dialogue because the head of state started with dialogue. That's why the PM went down. We have even the national dialogue that was called up by the head of state. The dialogue has been permanent. But with who? Of late, because we have the terrorists who are in the bushes. How do you dialogue with them? I can give you my own examples that
briefly,
we've had occasion to contact these guys to dialogue with them. And the end result is that they destroy our own agents, they kill them. They don't allow them to, in fact, they collect money and kill them.
So dialogue at that level, is difficult.
Is difficult.
Okay.
Now, when we talk of those who are out of the country, they are so divided.
Yes.
We have various camps, even on the field, that are opposing each other. Let them be together so that you can know whom to dialogue with.
Thank you. Dennis, you have heard that. Abe talked of good faith, honesty. Mr. Fru Jonathan has talked of devolution, effective devolution of power and dialogue. What are other means?
In the crisis that has killed more than 1,000 military men within a short space of 3 years. Because this war is only 3 years old, even though the crisis is 4 years. In a crisis that has killed officially more than 3,000 civilians in the northwest and southwest, and officially in tens of thousands of civilians killed, that has displaced more than 500,000 internally displaced. And
your source?
This UN has been publishing this to everybody, and human rights groups, and hundreds of refugees created all of it. In a crisis that has completely destroyed it, the Prime Minister came out and declared that Southwest and Northwest is economically disaster zone. And in a crisis that has taken this type of dimension, you don't minimize the person who is on the other side of the conflict. It means that he has enough capacity to cause a lot of nuisance. So you don't sit on your side and decide that, okay, I've given you this, I've given you this, I've given you this. You have to sit with them. And that is why the Social Democratic Front that I represent on this table, the UN, most of our friendly partners have been talking of, and a dialogue that examines the root causes of this problem. People want to limit this to 2016, want to avoid that this problem came from a foundation that was shaky, and the fact that they have to rearrange that foundation to be strong, because a weak foundation cannot carry a strong house. And that is that dialogue that must respect the capacity of nuisance of the persons on the other side. I agree with my brother Jonathan when he has mentioned the different terrorists, that is kidnappers, thieves. Yes, those are symptoms of war. When there's breakdown of law and order, many opportunities come in. But we should not lose sight of the fact that immediately we get into dialogue, sincere, open dialogue with the intention of addressing the root causes of this crisis, those other peripheral bandits, they will die down. They will die down completely.
Okay, thank you. Abed, just to recapitulate, you talked of good faith and honesty. You have talked of devolution of power effectively, and also dialogue which you have elaborated upon. Victor, is there no other solution on your table, on your mind, I should say?
We are leaving out the impact of the recent major national dialogue that held in Yaoundé. You can't say nothing. I know the SZF is out for that two-state federation. I understood your own side of the explanation. But we must not minimize the power of the dialogue. Your chairman was there, so you must not minimize the impact of that dialogue. I know you were there. I saw you there. Yes. We had many renowned and Anglophones of repute who were there. Now, the lawyers and teachers, their demands. When you look at the major national dialogue, there was a commission for education and for judicial systems. Now, these two commissions, what today we know as the special status, Book 4, Part 5, on the law on regional and local authorities, among the 5 pillars of the special status, the first pillar is on the educational system, which empowers authorities of the two regions, that's North and Southwest, to take care on the reforms that will empower and protect the English subsystem of education. Now, the second pillar is on the judicial system.
Yes.
It empowers them to carry on some legal reforms, but some they have to collaborate with the central authority. Yes. I think we must understand that because people are,
we have to move
are watering down the fact that there was no tangible outcome at the recent dialogue. Yes. I think we must also, like Abed said, that solutions, we must not leave out the aspect of reconstruction and recovery. Those are efforts that Cameroon is engaging, not alone, but with the UN.
I wish to add
briefly, because we have to move out of this topic.
Very brief, to say the education and sensitization of our populations is very important. Maybe Dennis is putting aside the national dialogue because he is of the opposition, but I think it's not an event that we can just throw aside. We were present. And our people are very ignorant of most of the things that government is doing. If they were...
We have reminded them of some of them. We're going to move out of this topic to the next topic. That is COVID-19, controversies around COVID-19. What are the measures put in place to make sure that this pandemic does not come to Cameroon in a new wave to disrupt our lives? But just a moment before we discuss that. We're going to get into the discussion of the second topic, controversies around COVID-19. The latest is that some results have been faked from Europe, people traveling from Europe to Cameroon and to other parts of Africa. When you hear about this, Albert, what do you say?
Well, that we need to be serious. There's been a lot of ruthlessness and recklessness from many of us. First of all, do we really need to remind Cameroonians again about the respect of barrier measures, that wearing a face mask, washing of hands should be a routine? The answer is no, but we are doing that. Do you need to remind an airport official, a health official at the airport, that allowing a traveler with a fake, we used to see that with the yellow fever card, where you just must
present it before you pass.
Unfortunately, it was being sold at the airport for 5,000 or 10,000 and you go without any vaccination.
The answer is no.
So you see that recklessness is something that we have to beat out.
I just want to cue up what Jim Body is saying. When you go out to the public now, you will discover that almost 80% of the population does not respect
the barrier measures.
If you look at the taxi, nobody has a mask. In the buses, nobody has. In the markets, sometimes even in schools. I think if we respect strictly the barrier measures which have been instituted by government, it's going to stop this disease. We don't need to come from outside.
Yes,
At
exactly.
least from within, we can equally
Yes,
contain it.
Dennis.
What I see outside is like a comfort of many people. That means that maybe there's something about our climate in the tropical zones that neutralizes this
The virus.
because when you go to Marché, when you see the way people mix, talk without any barrier measures, then
It frightens you.
then you just feel that if this thing was really around and spreading the way we see in America and Europe.
Yes, I have the impression that we have a special guest on the line. Do we have a special guest? Can we see? You continue. Yeah, continue.
So I don't just get it, and then I look at where they want to punish students, because in most secondary schools, especially in urban areas, it's a two-shift system. And a two-shift system means that if a teacher had 4 hours, he now has 8 hours. If a teacher had 10 hours, he now has 20. 20, he has 40. And the children come, and even in schools, it is relaxed.
Yes.
And no accompanying measures to the teachers.
I'm told that we have a special guest, a special viewer of Press R today, who I'm seeing on the window out there. This is Dr. Eric Tandy. We want to ask you, Doctor, what is the situation of COVID-19 in Cameroon today as we speak?
Yeah, thank you, Killian, for your question and for having me today. The situation of COVID-19 remains a concern to everybody in Cameroon. As you know, we've recorded more than 22,500 confirmed cases within the national territory, with more than 21,000 recoveries from this situation. And again, of much concern to me is the number of deaths that have been recorded within the national territory. However, as of now, we have close to 500,000 of Cameroonians who are still actively moving around or being diagnosed for having COVID-19 within our communities, with some cases being hospitalized under critical conditions and other asymptomatic cases that are being followed up.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. Don't go away yet. We want to know, with the controversies surrounding COVID-19, especially what we know today to be fake results, falsified results, where people take planes from other parts of the world to Cameroon. What do you say about this and the measures that must be taken?
Yeah, that's right, Killian. Like you rightly said, a lot of controversies have been recorded as far as those who are coming to the national territory of Cameroon from abroad are concerned, with some fake results that have been detected at our borders. You know, it has been the concern of the government. And the Minister of Public Health, being the technical ministry, has addressed this issue very strongly at the port of entry lastly when he made a routine visit at the airport. Again, he suggested that there were going to be a kind of a simulation with laboratories that are being found in Europe with accreditation. But yet the government has responded rapidly to this situation by diagnosing everybody that is coming within our national territory. Now, everybody coming into Cameroon has to be tested for COVID-19 upon arrival, not depending solely on the PCR tests that have come in.
The last thing there, Doctor, we know that many Cameroonians have abandoned the barrier measures because, like Mr. Dennis Kemlemo just said, when you look around, you don't see people falling around you of COVID-19, and that's why they don't seem to care so much about the barrier measures.
Yeah, we've noticed a lot of laxity within our communities as far as respecting barrier measures are concerned, Killian. But I will tell you that what concerns us much is the number of souls we've lost as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Remember, we're having a second wave of COVID-19 in Europe and in other countries like the USA. Again, remember when COVID started, we had few months before having it within our national territory. We're urging all Cameroonians to take this very serious and respect these barrier measures, because every soul that is lost is what concerned to not only the individual family, but to the nation at large.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for taking time off to clarify us on the situation in Cameroon and the measures to be taken.
Thank you very much for having me. The pleasure is mine always.
Yeah, pleasure shared again. We followed him live, gentlemen. He talked of a new wave, and we have to make sure, Victor, that we do not let down the guard as far as barrier measures against the pandemic is concerned.
That's very true, and that is why I think the most disturbing controversy now in our community is reinfection. The fact that you were once positive and you got well, you must be very careful to think that you cannot be reinfected. And when moving around, we must take precautions. Like he said, someone living in a community with that COVID-19 and taking no measure to prevent it from spreading is dangerous. It is disastrous, because the moment, like nowadays, he said about Mache Mukulu and Mache Acacia.
Just an example, because
yeah,
we have that
when you go
the
there and you are a patient,
yes,
a COVID patient,
yes,
1 minute is too much to
spread.
Contaminate like 20 at a time.
No, the problem is even that you can be a carrier
without
being aware that you are, and that's why it's important
exactly
to respect the barrier measures at all times and in all circumstances. But I also think that it is a responsibility of forces of law and order and the administration to, because we know how Cameroonians are. We love the king, so give it to Cameroonians, you know. Before the relaxation of some of these barrier measures, I think that it was so far so good.
Yeah.
But the issue is we misinterpreted the decision of government to relax some of these measures, and everybody was like, "Lo corona est fini," that it was game over. And I think that it is annoying. It is annoying because, first of all, it is undermining the inputs of medical personnel. It is a risk they are taking to help us go through this pandemic, and I think that we have been doing so well, and not respecting those measures is not being responsible to myself and to others around us.
Exactly, we should. You talked earlier about people not actually seeing Dennis. Others fall in market squares of the illness, and doctors, they say they cannot openly show people who are suffering because professionally, ethically, it's not good to show somebody who is suffering. Do you think they have to go out of that ethical protection to let people see in order to believe?
I think they don't need to go to break their ethical prescriptions to communicate effectively. We've seen COVID patients, some of us who watch foreign media, we've seen COVID patients in hospitals, in emergency wards, without showing physically, but just showing the outlet, Zoom.
Without showing the agonizing state.
Good. That education, that information is very important. That education is extremely important, because I traveled to Boya just last week. From here to Boya, we were in the bus, nobody behaved as if there was any COVID. The only place where they had to stop and everybody where the mask was getting out of Yaoundé, where they say, we control your mask, you don't have to pay 2,000. And that was all. I got to Boya, it's like nothing exists. So I think that we need a lot of education on this thing. But especially, this is very important, and I hope the doctor is listening.
Yeah,
many Cameroonians feel that there is treatment. They keep citing some of these natural herbs, artemisia and other things that when they can treat it, the Archbishop came with a treatment and said he had a protocol with government, discussed with government the treatment. So many people believe that it is treatable within Cameroon, even if at all it exists.
Okay.
So we have to really come with aggressive communication and education to make people reappropriate again the sense of danger that looms around with COVID-19.
Yes, what do we have to do to let people...
I'm equally happy with what the doctor said there, that they are systematically testing all those who are coming into the country now. First of all, the fact that the government was able to identify fake results means that some work is being done on the field. I think that assignment should continue. And various institutions, the matter of responsibility.
Yes.
I've gone to institutions like a bank. You are not allowed in if you don't have a face mask. If this rule is respected.
You sanitize your hands. Thank you
so
very much.
Teke
Elvis has just made his entry into the studio with reactions coming from all of you who have been viewing us around the world. Teke, Elvis, welcome. What are the reactions that we have today?
Quite a good number of them. We take a few. We'll begin with Nga Leonard Ngala, who says the government has done a lot, and that's all that has been done, yet no solution. Got to give wisdom to the Cameroonian leaders in their response to the problem that's inflicting Cameroonian people. Eno Timothy, say from the start of this crisis, lawyers stepped out and carried banners and saying back to federation, and the problem has escalated. And Mary Kilachin says the crisis has worsened in 2020. And Tita Chimoham says, hello everyone, teachers and lawyers had the confidence in government and is hoping that the confidence should continue as the people of the Northwest and Southwest they still have 50% of confidence.
Thank you very much, Elvis Teke. Just to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that like these reactions that we had, you can watch this program live on CRTV Web, Facebook, and you connect on that platform. You will also send your reactions to us each time we have this program. We are going to go around. Abed, what's the way forward?
Well, the way forward for COVID-19 is as simple as respecting the barrier measures. Let everybody play his or her role.
Yes,
it is the same for the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest region. Not always throwing the blame game has not solved any problem in the world. It will not solve in Cameroon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fru Jonathan.
Yes,
Thank you for coming.
If we want this problem to end, and individually and collectively, we must respect what the government has prescribed. I think it will help.
Yes, Denise Kemlemo, thank you once again for coming. Your last word.
I would like to go back to the first topic because it's very dear to me, because part of the country is completely down, if not the whole country. So I think that it is high time that the government that has the responsibility and destiny of this country and all Cameroon in its hands to be very courageous to initiate deep level, sincere dialogue that addresses the root causes so that for once we can put an end to this problem.
Thank you, Victor. Cham, thank you once
I
again.
want to tell the people of the two regions that's in Bamenda and Boya that whatever government is doing is their own. They own it. Government is just guiding them.
Okay.
They own all the programs to reconstruct and whatever. They should appropriate the program and take it as their own. They own it. It is our own. We should not think it's government's own. It is not.
Thank you. And it's on that note that we come to the end of today's edition of Press Hour. If you met us halfway, you can watch this program at your convenience on CRTV Web Facebook. If you don't have any handset or connection, watch the program tomorrow by 3 p.m., a rebroadcast of it. Thank you very much and have a nice day.